Here in the Ann Arbor area, we have seen an increase in the building of new homes. The housing stock had been so low for so long. That was one of the results of that. And other changes along the way. We're going to take a look at some of the trends out there over the next couple of weeks on our Damian on Design with Damian Farrell from Damian Farrell Design Group, which is a dynamic architecture firm based here in Ann Arbor. You do stunning work.
Thank you.
This is so much fun each week having you on. I've learned a lot about design.
You know that we've just finished our 4th year together?
Is that right?
After our Christmas show.
Thank you, Damian. Appreciate it.
I just look back on what we've done and how much we've covered and the people we've spoken to. It's just been fascinating.
And the changes along the way, right?
The changes along the way. And the fact, I think I have to put in a plug for the fact that the Bentley has asked if they could keep the series of shows we did with them at the Bentley. So you and I and Dean and Aaron, we're all now, memorialized at the Bentley Library here in Ann Arbor.
And a big player in that, Aaron McNair, who is your studio manager and puts together the show each week for us, and we appreciate it very much. We
appreciate it. The work she does for us is phenomenal, getting everything together.
For people that might not realize it, if you only listen to Damian on Design on the radio here on 1290 on the AM dial, you also can see the show on your YouTube channel. And it's as easy as searching for Damian Farrell on YouTube.com.
Yes. Just know Damian Farrell Design. It'll take you to this extraordinary library of shows that Aaron has put together.
Well, not only the building of homes has increased over this last year or so because the housing stock had been so low, people couldn't find what they wanted. The kinds of homes people are building has changed as well.
It has. I think this, the recession really gave the industry, I didn't want a breathing space or a breathing time or a time to reflect, but it got one, right? So both the design and the building industry, I think, got this time to kind of regroup, and now as things are picking up, reevaluate in a sense. And we're seeing some trends. So I think what we don't know at this point is whether the trends are a result mainly of conservatism coming out of the depression, the recession, I should say. And so people are being cautious, and if things really increase and people get that confidence back, whether we'll see a reversion to some of the styles and sizes of 2007 and before. Mm-hmm. We don't know, but everything, so Aaron and I track a whole lot of different things right at the moment. So we're tracking multi-housing news, National Association of Realtors and their blogs and their information, the Residential Architect Magazine, Custom Remodel Magazine, Custom Home Magazine, American Institute of Architects, and the National Association, I mentioned Realtors, I'm sorry, National Association of Home Builders. Mm-hmm. So we're getting a lot of data from a lot of different sources a number of times a week, and a lot of these things are really correlating, and we're seeing it in our business as well.
Much like our grandparents who went through the Depression era, and you retain those values for a lifetime. I'll never forget how my grandmother would reuse certain things, and she would harken back to the day, the big downturn and what that was like. So I think you get that imprint on you, and we're seeing people now, smaller homes, and probably more efficient homes.
Much more efficient, both I think in utilities and energy, but also just in space and flow.
Yeah.
One of the statistics that really grabbed my attention, up to 2007, average home size across the country, about 2,500 square feet and a little bit more. And that was 2007, 2008. 2009, that had dropped 100 square foot on average. 2010, another 100 square foot.
Really?
So really if you think about it, 100 square foot's not much, but that's a 10 by 10 room. That's a room. Somewhere on a national basis, we've taken out a room over the last 5 years.
Wow.
But then you also see this craziness that's going on in some of these very hot markets like Los Angeles, right? I mean, some of these 38,000 square foot homes that are going up, down in Houston as well. Mm-hmm. But I think for the rest of us, that's been the trend. We're seeing this downsizing.
So the average size of a new home is about
2,300 square feet.
2,300 square feet, and at one time it was about 2,500.
About 2,500, yeah.
All right.
It's a big difference.
It really is
significant. Yeah.
Damian, what other kinds of things are we seeing as a result of what we went through back in 2008?
The merging of spaces. This is everyone's known about the great room for a long time, but some people have still hung on to the living room concept. That's going. I'm seeing that going. It's coming down to kitchen, living, dining, in one space, which we've had for a long time, but living spaces where they've been kept separate in the past are shrinking and becoming specialty spaces. So it might be a very small TV room or a study or a very small kind of away space. It no longer has a proportion or the space where you could furnish it and entertain a large group of people. It's become very specialized in its use. And I think that's where some of this square footage that we've seen that's come out of these houses is going to. So that concept is here. We like that. We live that way in our daily lives. When we entertain, we gather that way. We're all too busy to do formal entertainment.
Right.
So we do it around the kitchen table, and all of that gets pulled together. I'm seeing master bathrooms from that very luxury palatial sizing, and that's also a national trend. Coming down, seeing many more, instead of double vanities, a single vanity, a lot of counter space, but just a single sink.
Right.
With the theory, who really is at the sink at the same time?
No one anymore. And I went to a single sink a long time ago. Now, having said that, in my new home that I'm building, I did go back to double, but for a reason, one is lower than the other sink, so that if there's a need and we have a wheelchair, you can roll right up.
Which addresses all the accessibility issues you and I have talked about in home design.
Which is very important, too.
It's very important.
In our aging population.
Yeah,
but I didn't want all the sinks to be low. That was really key, because we're told people didn't want to bend down either.
Yeah.
So,
No, so, we've raised them from 32 inches, that used to be the standard, to 36, so we don't bend over too much. But then I think the idea of also doing lower ones, so that they are more accessible for those periods of life if you are wheelchair, tied to a wheelchair and mobility challenged.
And the bathrooms themselves, though, you say we're thinking them a little bit more thoughtfully,
More thoughtfully. So people giving enough room to be able to turn, so a 5-foot turning radius incorporated into the design, but the space being more compact and less space for the sake of space.
Are we finally getting rid of the jet tubs?
Oh, Lord. We've talked about this, haven't we? I think so.
No one uses them.
No one uses them. So inefficient, takes so long to fill.
Yeah.
The ones we are seeing just regular-sized tubs with a motor in them, as opposed to the big corner luxury tubs. Some of the home builders are doing them for spec, because I still think when you're selling spec, you're trying to put in the tricks per square foot that would attract people. And so maybe the first-time home buyer who can afford it is looking and going, wow, wasn't that cool? Isn't that beautiful? They can see themselves in this big tub in the corner, relaxing, candles. For
all the people that go into a new home and say, I can see myself doing this, or I can see myself in that space. Really, call me a year later once you're in the house. Have you done that?
They remain unused.
Yeah.
But lots of interesting things as we look forward. I mean, people are obviously projecting to 2015 what lies ahead. I'm still reading a lot of uncertainty, and when I read through these studies, people are still unsure. Financing is still tough. The appraisal business is having a massive impact still. And just this week, Freddie Mac announced the 3% down mortgage for first-time homeowners or first-time home buyers, with some very heavy-duty backing to try to prevent some of that mortgage packaging that had been done before that put us into this problem in the first place. So there's a very strong move afoot at a national basis to continue to encourage home ownership. But as you know, this particular holiday, I've had my son Brian in the office. Brian has been doing some research as well about renters versus homeowners. And this, I sort of put it akin to that whole debate about do people want to live downtown or they do want to live out in the country, so in the subdivisions. And those numbers still hover around 50-50. And it's sort of the same thing for the renter-owner market. There is still that very powerful group of millennials and even some empty nesters moving forward into some baby boomers who've either lost their homes during the recession and are now skeptical, or they can't get another mortgage at this time. And so they are happy renting. But they are skeptical because they banked on their homes being their life savings. That's such a huge part of wealth building in this country. It always has been for the majority of people. So they might contribute to an IRA or a 401k plan, but they really look to their homes. And our taxation system is set up that way, right? You can take your one-time $500,000, no capital gains on that, you can take that one time after age 55, right?
Mm-hmm.
And bank that money, if you will, and then downsize. Well, that went away for a lot of people. So there's that market who are going to continue to rent, but then this, people were saying, well, the millennials only want to rent because they're transient, they want something cool, different, they don't want to be tied down. That's true. But as those millennials push on into their 20s and start to get married, what the trends and the surveys are showing now is that really, if anything, they are more traditional.
Yes.
Some of their desires are more traditional than perhaps our generation. They are seeing family. They want a home now. Those things appeal to them.
There is a car commercial out right now where it shows a young man saying, I'll never get married. Then the next scene is the marriage. And then the two of them say, I'll never have a child because there's a crime child. Then the next thing you see, they have a child. They're still in their beautiful condo apartment in downtown.
Yes. Yes.
He says, to the baby, you'll never go to the suburbs. Next thing you know, you see the house in the suburbs. A car is driving by. It's a van. Oh, we'll never have that kind of
We'll never have a minivan.
And then he's washing it. So we all go through these, you can't see that until there's a necessity for it, really.
Yes, yeah.
So
a lot of uncertainty. It's exciting from an architect's point of view. I think the home builders don't really know where it's going. Mm-hmm. I saw in one of these studies we have here in front of us that we're referring to, one particular, I think it's house.com or something like that sells home plans. 42,000 home plans available on that site. And everyone trying to figure out what is it that people really want, and
well, I'll tell you where I think that builders are missing a beat,
yeah.
and that is with providing different kinds of space for different families. In our case, we needed 2 master suites because multi-generational family.
Yeah.
And I don't think builders understand that. I think as more people start asking them for it, they realize there's a market for it. But we were told when we were building our house now, there's not a resale value for it. You're not going to find someone who wants that. And since then, they've had several families come to them and say they want the same thing.
Yeah.
So I think as more people ask for it, the builders will finally realize it.
I would totally agree with you. We have this project that we're looking at doing down in Saline. We've talked about it, and the whole thesis of the design of those units is 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms on one level.
Yeah.
On the accessible level, then with an option of further living space and bedrooms above. Mm-hmm. But 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, one of them a full suite on one level.
Wow. Nice.
And that market is untapped.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the realtors are telling me locally.
Yeah.
They cannot sell enough of those. So I'm with you. I completely agree with you. I think the builders are going to have to meet that market.
I think we're going to see that change coming shortly. Yep. We're talking with Damian Farrell. He's an architect with Damian Farrell Design Group, his firm here in Ann Arbor, on the air each week on 1290 WLBY on the Lucy Ann Land Show. You can go to dfdgonline.com and check out his work. Beautiful photos on there, dfdgonline.com. Back to the appraisal. I've never understood. If you have the nicest house in the neighborhood, you've put in a lot of effort, you've done a lot of renovations, and it's a decent neighborhood. It's not falling down.
Yeah.
But yet other houses aren't as nice as yours. Why does your appraisal have to be lower just to accommodate the rest of the neighborhood? Isn't it by the market? What if someone wants to pay top dollar for your place?
Yeah, you see, you've nailed, I think, that in my mind, the biggest problem right now. Let's assume everyone's going to figure out the financing stuff.
Okay.
All right. So we went through the bubble bursting, and part of what created that bubble, not just the mortgage packaging, but before it even got to the mortgage packaging, you could pretty much talk to your appraiser and within reason say, this is really what I would like it to appraise for because I can afford this. And so there was a little more art, if you will, in my opinion. And I'm not an appraiser, so some of my appraisal friends may be screaming at this point. There was a little more art to the appraisal business at that time before the bubble burst. What's happened now, because of, everyone knows what, right? All the slashing, the regulations, everything that went wrong.
Well, the appraisers used to be local. They knew the market.
They knew the market, and you could go pick your appraiser.
That's right.
All right. Now that has changed. Now there's this kind of rotation system.
Yes.
And you may, and in fact, you probably won't get a local appraiser. You'll get someone from the area in which you live, but it might be a 40-minute drive,
right.
Something like that. So you're dealing with people who don't know the the intimacies of the particular market and the intimacies of the geographies that surround one town. Even a small town like Chelsea, Dexter, Saline have their own little subtleties of where, right? And so you're seeing that part of it, and they are looking at comparables. It's really come down to comps. So what else is sold? Well, we're coming out of a recession. Very little sold. What sold either was into foreclosure or it was giveaway stuff. And the few odd that traded at market or close to, they were so few and far between.
It should be predicated on the future, actually, not on what happened in the past.
So, but that's subjective. So when you're in a tough time like this, and everyone wants to be, everyone wants regulations. They want people to take accountability for what happened and fix it, overnight kind of thing. Everyone wants us fixed. So what do? You slap restrictions on everyone.
Yeah.
And you take the art form out of it, and you take the subjectiveness out of it. And you just play it by the rules until a few people start to rise above that and create a few little fingers reaching out and creating a little bit of hope and a little bit of bubble going and some creativity and things start to happen.
Right.
So, it's just, we're in the circle and we're getting little fly-offs of the circle as bits of hope and new subdivisions start, people like you and like Dean who are now building new homes at this time. So it's happening. But I feel for those guys. I feel for the appraisers. I feel for our clients as well who are getting their assets undervalued, especially our commercial clients, people who want to start businesses, who want to build buildings for businesses. Very difficult right now. Very difficult. Just a lot of restrictions. So I think what Freddie Mac just started this week is a big, big step forward. I suspect we'll see Fannie Mae follow with some of their mortgage-backed securities. I think we will see a greater focus. We will see controls. I mean, when you and I bought our first homes, I remember a bank telling me your payment couldn't exceed 28% of your gross income, of your monthly income, right? And I think that's maybe a good thing. Maybe we will end up back at that place. And that's really what the banks are looking at. I mean, they're talking about 30% now. But it's hard without a down payment. If you're young or if you lost your home, you've got to have a lump of cash to get into it. Otherwise, you're stuck. You're stuck renting for a while. But maybe that's not a bad thing.
Well, some of those young people, that's all they want to do is rent. That's what they want. You said that earlier.
Take your money that maybe you'd be putting in and start to invest it. Start to save it. I think the nation's got to create savings again, just like our parents did.
Well, and I think that ability to rent depends on the rental market, too. Look, it's huge here in Ann Arbor with the pricing is. People look at that and they're like, that's a house payment.
Yeah.
I should have a house. Isn't that the American dream?
It is the American dream. So the people who are being smart are saying, right, I'm going to rent for this, but I'm going to certainly put the money away and I'm going to watch that start to grow. That's now going to be my life savings. So, it's shifting the focus.
One of the biggest building areas I see are these assisted living places.
Yes.
That's what's going up.
That's what's going up. Yeah. And they're in this interesting dilemma too, as the baby boomers who are healthy see themselves living easily into their 80s, and they are active and want to live and continue to live where they are. They like their homes. They may have adapted their home and for future to take care of anything that may be short-term catastrophic, but they want to be near places like in Ann Arbor. We've got all this wonderful healthcare around here, so it's a great place to be.
Right.
If you want to continue to live in your own home and adapt that home, and that we're seeing a lot as well. I mean, all the remodel work we're doing, there's just a continual theme now of accessibility.
And how are you? Yeah.
And flexibility.
How are you remodeling? Flexibility, accessibility.
Yes.
Let's make the homes like that in the first place.
Why not? It's so easy to do. Yeah.
Great talking with you. Happy New Year.
And you too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Damian Farrell Design Group, his Damian on Design each week. And next week we're going to talk about trends for 2015 in kitchen and bath in your home. More coming up on the Lucy Ann Lance Show, Ann Arbor's Talk Station, 1290 WLBY.